About 3 weeks ago, I finished my second in-game year of Fields of Mistria. During those almost 100 hours of playtime, I'd like to think that I learned a thing or two, and that's exactly what I'm gonna share with you today. I know I'm like the 50th person to make a tips video when it comes to Fields of Mistria, but I'm willing to bet there's at least one thing on this list that you didn't know about. Yes, I am that confident. So here's 50 beginner tips for Fields of Mistria, version 0.14.4. First things first, bag upgrade. You have very limited inventory slots when you start playing, but the general store offers a bag upgrade from day 1, and while 1000 tesserae is a lot at the beginning, trust me, this is so worth it, and should be a #1 priority. And on the note on small inventory space, if your bag is full, you can drop any items on the ground and pick them up later again. They won't despawn even after multiple days. You can pick forage, craft items, and even fish or catch bugs. However, this does not apply when leaving items in the mines, since each floor will reset once you leave, so keep that in mind. You can get a free bowl of soup every day from the Sleeping Dragon Inn, which is located next to the general store, and this refills 20 points of stamina. During the first week of playing, Reyna will send you a letter informing you about the weekly Friday night tradition at the inn, and you do not want to miss out on that. Every single townie will be present on Fridays at the inn, even the kids, which is very handy if you want to hand out gifts. They all have their own little storylines that you can follow along throughout the seasons, and if you happen to miss a Friday visit, you can go back the next week and the story will continue where you left off last time. Once you have a copper pickaxe, you can break this big boulder on the eastern road, which gives you access to a wishing well, where you can either dump in 100 or 500 tesserae once per day in return for a random item. This includes food, gems, and even recipes. Speaking about giant rocks, there's another one close to the museum that respawns every day. Breaking it grants 20 stones and a guaranteed sapphire, which sells for a bit of money and is also a liked item for Baylor. The sapphire, not the stone. And speaking about Baylor, make sure to check his traveling cart from time to time. His stock rotates every single day and he has a chance of selling seeds and forage from previous seasons. Artifacts can be dug up from these smaller dirt spots around Mistria by either using a shovel or a pickaxe. This might be obvious to some people, but no joke, it took me an entire in-game month to finally realize that I can do that. Every new artifact needs to be identified first before donating it, and all you have to do is hold it in your hand and press E. And by the way, there's different artifacts in each area. The dig site is guaranteed to have 1 dig spot per day. You can even have more with certain upgrades later. So try to stop by whenever you're heading towards the mines and start collecting sod, clay, and peat, which are used in a lot of crafting recipes later on. Chests can be customized with different icons. This little icon right here appears once you open it, and if you activate it, crafting tables, cooking stations, and the forge won't pull any items from that specific chest. Chests can have different storage capacities. The first type you have access to are the wooden ones, which you can also buy from the general store, which have the least amount of capacity. The next best ones you can unlock are the stone storage chests after reaching town level 14, and these have a large capacity. And by the way, whenever you gain a new town rank, there's always a reward that you can get, which can be picked up from this wooden box next to the request board. The rewards range from crafting recipes, accessories, money, but every 10th level grants you a stamina potion, and this permanently increases your max energy. The town level can be advanced by doing various activities like completing sets in the museum, finishing requests, and selling items via the shipping bin. Trees regrow within a single day, so don't be afraid to go on a deforestation spree around Mistria. This does not count for the trees on your farm. They will either regrow on a random spot, which takes 14 in-game days, and later on you can craft your own saplings by the mill. Wildberries are your best friend during spring. They can be foraged from bushes around the map, and while they only restore 1 stamina point per berry, this is especially handy for fishing. Fishing consumes a lot of energy, but you only need 1 single stamina point to cast your rod. And this also counts for any other action, by the way. Ship at least one new crop or forage that you find. You can unlock a cooking recipe for all of the different crops and most of the forage in the game. Once you drop it off in the shipping bin, you will receive the recipe the next day from Nora or from any of the other townies. And speaking about it, don't sleep on cooking or crafting. You always want to try to use your items in crafting or cooking if possible, as this is usually more profitable than just selling the item as is. There's a level 1 cooking station in a Sleeping Dragon Inn, as well as a crafting station in the middle of town. The carpenter also sells cooking and crafting stations, which you can place on your farm, though they are kind of expensive though, so this might not be relevant for you early on, but definitely you want to consider later. If you can see a little museum icon on an item, that means that you can donate it. If it's already donated, there will be a check mark on it. You cannot pass out from stamina depletion. Unlike in Stardew Valley, where you quite literally faint on the ground, if you have no energy left at all, your character will simply yawn and not use any tools. So don't be afraid to use up all of your energy every day. The request board is one of the most important places in the whole town. Requests don't have a time limit, so feel free to accept every single one that you see and complete them at your own speed. During summer and winter, make sure to check the manor house from time to time, as there's a new forage that you can pick that only spawns right here at this spot. You can jump by pressing space. Again, this might sound very obvious, but is easily forgotten, and you can jump over quite a lot of obstacles, like fences, wood, stone, and even smaller ledges, which makes running around Mistria a lot smoother. Once you do quests to repair stairs and bridges around town, you will gain access to other parts of the map where you can find these little fountains that restore a bit of stamina for free. There is also a request that you can do very early on where Juniper will ask you for a piece of lilac, and once you complete this quest, you will be granted 5 free visits to the bathhouse, which is the only place that fully restores your stamina and also your health. Let's move over to the skills. There are 3 different places where you can access your perk trees and spend essence on. The most useful one is Caldaris' statue on your farm, where you can manage farming, fishing, archaeology, cooking, ranching, woodcrafting, and blacksmithing. The second dragon statue is right next to the mine elevator, where you can access your mining and combat skills. And for the third location, I'm gonna put a spoiler warning, as this is only accessible after doing a story quest called Upgrade Hayden's Barn, so feel free to skip ahead. Unfortunately, I didn't have the full recording of this anymore, but basically you'll have Hayden stop by your farm the next morning, asking if you've seen his weather vane, which can be picked up from this spot in the Narrows. After returning it to him, you can go back to the place where you found the weather vane and interact with this horse statue. Upon donating 100 essence to this, you will unlock your very own mount, Mistmare. After acquiring Mistmare, you can further interact with the statue, and you can now obtain 3 kinds of perks to upgrade your mounts. I know this is more mid-game stuff, but I wanted to mention this because I genuinely didn't know about this perk tree until way later into the game. On the topic of perks and upgrades, there are a few of them that I think are a bit more important to get early on than others. So for farming, I'd recommend Refreshing, where watering a crop will sometimes refund the stamina it used, and also a day well spent. This gives you 10 extra stamina points the next day upon going to bed with 0 stamina left. Once you get into cooking, the best tier 1 perk is Restorative Cooking, though all of the level 1 perks are pretty good, but this one especially is handy to have early on, as this will allow you to occasionally cook dishes with a so-called Restorative Infusion. Upon consuming the infused dish, you will get a 2-hour-long buff, which restores your health and, more importantly, your stamina. If you're like me and you want to have as many different colored animals as possible, then you want to get your hands on the Welcome Home tier 2 perk in Ranching, where newly bought or born animals will already start with 1 heart, which is huge since you only need 2 hearts for breeding. For blacksmithing, one of the best perks you can have, even late game, is the Lightweight perk, where crafting a tool will occasionally result in a bonus lightweight infusion, which has a chance of dropping stamina orbs on use. Obviously, I don't need to explain why this is so good. For combat, I'd prioritize the jump attack perk first. As the name suggests, this enables a jump attack that you can perform mid-air, but this is not only useful for the enemies in the mines, but also when clearing grass on the farm. You can turn off and on perks whenever you want to. Why would you ever want to do that, you might ask? Well, if we take a look at blacksmithing or cooking, without spoiling too much, but there's a lot of different infusions that you can unlock for both of these skills. So if you want to have a higher chance of obtaining a certain infusion, you definitely want to turn off all of the other active perks. Archaeology is probably the easiest skill to level, as you just need to dig up dirt spots, and I think this was the second skill I maxed out on my other save. A lot of artifacts make great gifts, and they also sell for a nice chunk of money. If you plant a seed and you happen to place it in the wrong spot, you can use a shovel to get the seed back. This does not work on fruit saplings, unfortunately. You can move your barn or coop to a new spot whenever you want to. All you have to do is press remove and you will get all of your materials back and the blueprint for the building. If you happen to have animals inside, you need to go to Hayden's farm first and place the animals inside his daycare. This does not cost any money and you can leave them there for as long as you want. Once you get into ranching, you will start collecting shiny beads by hand feeding your animals. Shiny beads can be offered to the chicken statue, which is located next to Sweetwater Farm. You can either donate 10 or 100 each in return for various animal produce, cooked dishes, and accessories. Also, shiny beads are a loved item for Henrietta. You can feed your animals all kinds of different items, not only hay and grass seeds, but also forage like berries, acorns, and even cooked dishes once you unlock the required perk. Personally, I like to have a lot of fruit trees on my farm and feed those to my animals, as they give 4 shiny beads per fruit, which is kinda crazy. Animals like to spend the day outside during sunny weather, even during winter. Remember to call them back inside before going to bed, unless you want to have cranky animals roaming around the next day. Also, animals will eat your crops if you just happen to hang around the farm while they're outside and you haven't fed them. This genuinely took me by surprise. Last tip regarding ranching, don't worry if you forget to feed them. Coop and barn animals won't starve, they just won't drop any produce or gain affection. That's about it. Fishing is the best way to make money early on. You can buy a fishing rod for 500 gold down by the beach at Terethia's tackle shop, or craft your own by the forge once you get your hands on some copper. If you see one of those dark bubbly spots in the water, that means that you can dive at this location. You don't need a fishing rod for that, you can just jump into the water and interact with the spot. Your watering can never runs out of water. Thank God. I don't want to talk about woodcrafting too much, since you're very limited with that early on, and you definitely want to prioritize using materials for upgrades and town improvements. But one thing I do want to mention are the crop sign crafting recipes available from the general store after you upgraded it. There's one for each season, and while they are quite pricey, they're definitely worth the money. As the name suggests, this lets you craft a sign for whatever crop or seasonal forage you have, and they sell for a bit more money than just shipping the item by itself. Not only do you gain a bit more income, but by doing so, you can also level your woodcrafting skill. You can change the in-game day speed in the settings menu. There is a message that pops up telling you that the NPC routine was designed for the normal day speed, but I never had any issues with that, and I played almost the entire second year on the longer days setting. You can save your game manually by clicking on the journal inside the farmhouse. I know that Adeline tells you about this the second you meet, but I just wanted to mention this quickly because I tend to forget about this feature. If you want to figure out what gifts to hand to a townie without looking it up, then make sure to chat with everyone on a daily basis. There's a good chance that they'll inform you about a liked item for a friend, a family member, or even for themselves. If you're already past summer, then this is probably not new, but in case you haven't, there's a new mechanic they added with the latest update where you can do a little quest for Elsie, and after that you unlock the gossip mechanic. This allows you to chat with her every single day, where she will present 3 townies or vendors, and once you select one, it will reveal a single unknown liked or loved item for the person. I already mentioned this in another video, but I really hope to see more of this in future farm sim. It's such a neat little feature. This is the first farm sim, or game in general, where I found myself going out of my way to try and talk with a lot of the different NPCs as often as I can. The game's dialogue is incredibly well written and also very funny at times. The Townies react to everything you do, and I mean everything. Whether you donate a new item to the museum, found a new fish in the river, unlocked a new level in the mines, everything. Even Caldaros has a dialogue line for all of the different activities you do. I know this isn't really a tip, but I just wanted to mention it quickly, as clearly the developers put a lot of effort and time into creating all of these different dialogue lines for all of the different people. I mean, you can look it up yourself on the wiki. There's like an own page for every single townie for all of the different dialogue lines they have. It's kind of crazy. There is no weekly gift limit, so you can hand out gifts every day to befriend people. Once you have access to the mines, you might come across one of these whirlpools in the water. You can jump in and interact with them, which will teleport you to a different part of the floor. The mines are heavily tied to overall story progression, so try to check that out as soon as you can. And on that note, I would highly recommend keeping all of the fish, forage, bugs, and artifact duplicates that you acquire while exploring the different levels. At least one of each. I'm not gonna say too much, but trust me, it's gonna save you a lot of time later on. Hopefully. If you learned something new, then please leave a like, it helps me out a ton. Feel free to share any other useful tips down below. I read every single comment that I get, and usually also reply to most of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.